It's a beautiful Sunday evening, day number 27 in the month of August 2023. Good evening and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. This show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA, and our media partner on the journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. If you want to see all that happened here on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show tonight. We are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema, and on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port Ghana. Iron Port Ghana. Indeed, we shall be getting interactive with you, and so all you have to do is send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0559019177. 0559019177. Now, when the time is right, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I come.
Shut up!
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from GOIL.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for
Choose Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for GOIL Super XP Raw 95. GOIL, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Suddenly my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance
for the projects, and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life
can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Hello, welcome back. We are now going to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And in the course of the week, the UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce met, and they had some good things to say about the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, plus the fact that the USDA team has also paid a courtesy call, on the Port Authority during the course of the week. And there was a fire simulation exercise to test the preparedness of the Port Authority, in the event of an outbreak of fire. Let's take a look at these stories and more.
The UK-Ghana Chamber of Commerce has commended the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority for putting in place the necessary infrastructure and systems that have improved the business environment in Ghana. The Managing Director of Unilever Ghana, George Owusu-Ansah, said this when he led a delegation from the Chamber on a working visit to management of the Port Authority.
We also do work around the business environment, business and trade environment in Ghana, and I would say that the last edition, which was issued in February 2023, did indicate that there have been some improvements in the business environment in Ghana. And we believe this improvement will not have come about without some of the improvements that we've seen at the port expansion, etc. So kudos to you and the team for the work that is going on.
The visit formed part of the UKGCC's series of engagements being embarked on with policymakers, stakeholders, and business partners towards strengthening business relations.
At the end of our engagement today, we would have built a base for stronger collaboration between us as we go forward, all in the spirit of making sure that we make doing business in this country easier.
They were received by the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje, who maintained that his outfit is open to discussions that lead to workable solutions towards reducing cost of doing business at the ports.
The total cost of doing business, port clearance, you have customs charging, you have shipping lines, you have freight forwarders, you have the port authority, all these individuals are there. So mostly when we are confronted with your port charges, your port tariff that is expensive, we try to seek some education on whether you've looked at your total costs and the individual agency specific contributions, and you are certain that is the port authority's component that is killing you. If you can prove that to us, we'll be happy to assist you.
The General Manager Marketing and Corporate Affairs at GPHA, Esther J.B. Donko, provided some justification for tariff increments by the Port Authority.
We also happen to be one of those businesses that have been affected by what is happening around us. And we have to pay for the high prices of our inputs that we use to handle the cargo, to provide the service that we provide. And so unfortunately, in as much as we accept that this whole global trend is affecting businesses and reducing the quantities that you are bringing through the port, for us, we better not handle at all than to handle and make a loss.
A team from the United States Department of Agriculture has paid a working visit to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority to engage the authority on a number of issues that affect trade. The team is in Ghana to meet key institutions to understand Ghana's approach to the generation of agricultural and related trade statistics to support the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The team was received by the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje. Issues discussed centered on how data of agricultural products are collected, challenges in collecting data, and how data is streamlined. The USDA team believes the information gathered will assist them come up with a report that will provide recommendations to serve the interest of participating countries under the AFCFTA.
This information will help us come up with a report that will hopefully provide recommendations and follow-up actions that will serve the interests of participating countries, in this case, Ghana being, an example, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. So again, we are going to share our recommendations with the Secretariat, and then together we will work with them to determine follow-up actions to help implement the recommendations or actions that will come from our report.
The General Manager Marketing and Corporate Affairs at GPHA, Esther Jebidongo, took the team through the cargo handling process at the port and how data is captured.
We handle agricultural products, a bit of it through the ports. Most of them goes through the airports because of the perishable nature of agricultural exports that we handle. You depend on the declaration of the exporter, but when it is stuffed in their farms and what have you, then you rely on the declaration of the exporter.
The Acting General Manager of Corporate Planning at the Ghana Port and Harbors Authority, Khalid Nuhu, added on to that.
The data first is captured actually at the waterfront, because the exporter would first have to provide us with a manifest indicating the quantities, and that is verified at the waterfront here. That data is processed and integrated in our total data for import and export. Exactly.
The Director General of GPHA, Michael Lugoje, described some challenges associated with maritime transport within the continent of Africa.
Shipping is about volume. For it to be profitable, it has to be volume. So if you don't have volume, and you are using smaller vessels to move cargo from, let's say, Congo to Dakar, a small vessel that is coming to compete for port space with bigger vessels that are coming from other continents. If there's no regime that will let the port give this smaller vessel some preferential access, and that vessel has to queue with all the bigger ones to access the port at cost, how will the shipper be able to sell within the market and make a margin? So there's a lot of work to do in terms of special conditions for cargo that is going to circulate within.
Between the 21st and 27th of August, the Ghana National Fire Service celebrated the Fire Safety Week for the year 2023. As part of activities to mark the week, the National Fire Service has conducted a collaborative simulation exercise with the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority. The exercise, that lasted for about an hour at the Marine Block in the port of Tema, demonstrated a readiness of the combined fire team to fight potential incidents. Assistant Chief Fire Officer Doris Lamte is the Tema Regional Commander for the Ghana National Fire Service.
Yeah, the response here, yes, very, very, very impressed, because you realize that they all came out, nobody was panicking, and it was good for us. Everybody came out without holding anything, so you realize that the message of fire safety, that when the alarm is sound, just leave the premises to the safe haven, has really gone down with us.
According to the Harbour Master and Incident Commander at the Port of Tema, Captain Francis Kwesi Micah, such drills are necessary to continuously improve the responsiveness of the authorities' personnel against possible dangers.
So as long as we do have containers here, and as long as we have the Fire and Safety Department going on the beat, regular patrols, trying to identify potential hazards, potential risk, and having their readiness to combat, I think we are good to go.
All right, so those were some stories and happenings in the port and shipping industry. in the course of the week. We are now going to take our word or phrase of the day. Remember, the word or phrase of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. And today's word is artificial reef. Artificial reef.
An artificial reef is a submerged structure deliberately placed on the seabed to mimic some functions of a natural reef, such as protecting, regenerating, concentrating, and/or enhancing populations of living marine resources.
All right, so welcome back. We are zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we're taking a look at the Indian situation. On the 20th of July this year, the government of India announced the ban on exportation of non-basmati rice. We'll tell you what non-basmati rice is, when we start. Now, according to the government, in a statement, the move is geared towards ensuring that there is, they acquire or citizens of India buy rice at good rates, meaning that the prices should be low and that there's availability. Now, depending heavily on Indian rice is our countries, that's Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam in Southeast Asia. And when you come to West Africa, we have Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Senegal in West Africa. Fortunately, Ghana has not been mentioned. They're also heavily dependent on Indian rice. Now, we're told that India controls about 40% of the global rice business, global rice trade, and the affected items that has been announced by the government accounts for 15%, of this particular commodity. And so we are trying to examine what the impact is, what lessons we can draw as a country. We know that in Ghana, there's been efforts, several years past and even currently to scale up rice production and to stem the importation of same. Now, we also know that just one group of companies recently signed some significant number of MOUs with some companies in Thailand, about 10 of them, I am told, to help scale up rice production through technology. And so we are trying to take a look at what the situation is as of now, what impact this particular directive from the Indian government has on the global rice trade, in terms of food security and others, and what lessons we can draw from this particular, policy that has been rolled out by the Indian government. And so it gives me pleasure this evening to introduce to us Mr. Dodi Sedu, who is an AFTA consultant with Frontier Market Advisors. Good evening, sir, and welcome. He's no stranger to Iron Port. He's been here several times, and so his family. We also have in the studios Mr. Anthony Kofitio Morrison, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Welcome, sir. So before we zoom into this, just tell us briefly what the Chamber of Agribusiness does. I know there used to be this Chamber of Agric, whether it's still existing or whether it's still in operation, I don't know. But tell us what the Chamber of Agribusiness is all about and when you started operations and what you have been able to do so far.
So we started somewhere 2013, initially called Federation of Young Farmers Ghana. Fast forward, due to global trade and production and the need to sustain and have a more better engagement with the agribusiness and agriculture stakeholders, the federation was transformed into a chamber in 2016. We have been very instrumental in several activities. For instance, in making a sustained advocacy on policy, areas of trade regulation, trade facilitation, capacity building, and also supporting government with regards to policy development, consultations, and all that. Some of our key activities we've done with regards to trade is supporting our members to access international trade. We've been to US, China, Turkey, Italy, Germany, and several other places. We've done South Africa, Nigeria, and several others. We have major stakeholders. However, we have also been focusing quite a lot on developing some strategic areas. Like, for instance, we have had a policy brief on the COVID and the direction that government needs to go through. We came out with a whole research document on the moringa industry. And also, we have been very strong advocates of the Ghana rice industry and how we should be developing the industry for maybe a sub-regional control for us to be able to develop a more competitive and a comparative advantages dealing with the rights issues.
Right. Okay, so let's zoom in onto today's topic proper with respect to the announcement by the Indian government, which took place on the 20th of July, where they said they were banning non-basmati white rice, immediately. I just want to find out from you. In my intro, I made mention of the fact that when I was researching for, for this particular topic, I realized that they intimated that in West Africa we have Nigeria, we have Ivory Coast, we have Senegal that are heavily dependent on Indian rice. Ghana was not mentioned. Is that cause for us to say, okay, yes, we shouldn't bother, or you think that we should have cause, to worry?
Well, let's first of all look at how Ghana came through with this rice. Until the 1960s, Ghana was not really known to rice. According to Boza, the introduction of rice, even though we're partially in the northern region and somewhere in the Volta region in the 17th and 18th century. But it is when we begin to start engaging deeply with international trade. So our taste for food begin to change. Now, fast forward, if you look at the sub-region, Nigeria is the biggest producer of rice. Ghana's average production has consistently been increasing.
Right.
But over the years, our importation has also been very much to decide of. For instance, you mentioned of Nigeria.
Yes.
But what you do not know is that the current data actually shows that Benin is the largest importer of rice on the African continent.
Benin, okay.
Yes. And its proximity to Nigeria, because of the sub-regional trade,
yes,
affords them to be able to move some to Nigeria. Now, if you look at Ghana and the variety of rice that we do have, globally there are, of course, leading rice varieties. We have the basmati, which mainly is from Nigeria, India. Yes. We have the brown rice. We have the red rice and the white rice that we all know here. Now, the red rice and the brown rice, which primarily is more dominant in the central Volta region of Likpe, Logba, its environs, is possibly the most nutritious rice among all the global rice that you can find.
Right.
It has the high fiber content, and the most important one, which others don't even have, is the high presence of the antioxidants in them, which, of course, a lot of people who want to fight diabetes and all that are being told to consume brown rice and red rice. These are one of the most leading nutritious rice you can not find any other part of the world except Ghana.
Right.
The situation in India, I have always consistently said that global events must afford us the opportunity to enhance and make the deliberate necessary investment into what we think are our national priorities.
Right.
And you see, as a country, we haven't seen a lot being driven on the rice sector. The last Ghana's rice policy strategy was developed in 2008.
Right.
So if you look at it, global events, food importation, especially on rice, and several other things have changed over the years. Okay, so one would have expected that Ghana's strategy would have changed over the years. For instance, if you look at the three main grains and cereals, you look at wheat, corn, and rice. We before the 2016 PFJ introduction, we were doing somewhere about 1.5 million metric tons. Okay, of which we were doing just about 600,000 in terms of milled rice production in the country.
Right.
At the time, our total importation bill was far below $600,000. Now, fast forward, our consumption have increased. Now, let me also add that Ghana also exports rice.
Right.
We export to South Korea, we export to Japan, US, and the sub-region. In fact, Nigeria takes a lot of paddy rice from us. So, and also Benin.
Okay.
If you go to the Sogakope enclave, the African Tiger Group actually export most of their rice to a factory in Benin where they use it for beer and other derivatives.
Right.
So Ghana is quite positioned. If you look at our climate, we have very fantastic climate. The humidity level actually supports rice production. Volta region alone, if we intensify mechanization and adopt the right climate change. For instance, Agra has been a very strong leader in supporting the rice industry. Before Agra,
Agra.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So before Agra, we've seen the work done by JICA, the Japanese government, in supporting the rice. Where those days we had Voradep, Iradep, Noridep, and all that were all strategic in supporting the rice industry. However, we have seen Agra doing a lot. So as one of the varieties that is mostly cultivated in the country, we have the Agra variety. We also have the jasmine, of course, and we have the Expiler. Now, West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, WACI, of University of Ghana, has also been doing quite a fantastic job in that area. They've trained quite high-profile, skilled people in plant breeding. And these people are able to come up with high-yielding rice varieties, rice that can withstand climate. So we call them drought-resistant crops. And we have also seen some local industry like Legacy, MMBCs, and the Iowa, these three being the major rice multiplication or seed multiplication companies. With support from their membership, NASDAQ, where they have supported a lot of seed growers and the seed traders. I think that a lot needs to be done. The issue of the India situation, for me, I don't think it's an issue Ghana needs to be concerned about. What we should rather be putting in place, for instance, in September 2022, government introduced a new tax. Now, what that new tax had done.
What tax is that?
So that was what we call the tax exemptions. Those Tax Exemption Act of 2022, Act 1083. Now, what it did, for me, is not the issue of the Indian one, but it was this. This rather increased the cost of bringing in farm inputs. No, not even the import. Look, we can do a lot. And as I've said, this tax mitigated against a lot of importers who otherwise would have brought in much more inputs that they have brought this year. We did a press conference on this in support. We support with our collaborators, CropLife, NASDAQ, Peasant Farmers, Ghana Rice Professional Body, of course, and the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. It was only since January, it was only this month that the minister was making his first comment on this. When we have engaged government on the need to look at it. So that also notwithstanding, we have the African Rice Group. We have the research institutions, CSR, that is also leading. So if you go to the Savannah sector, you see the Savannah Development Authority and the research institution there coming up with a more hybrid. So for instance, in the north, they do a number of parboiled rice, which is also a variety. Most people refer to as the desert
I think that the rice that has been banned by the Indian government, parboiled rice and then basmati, are still allowed for exports.
I think basmati rather has been banned.
Non-basmati is what has been banned.
Yes,
non-basmati.
Yes.
But basmati is allowed, and parboiled is also allowed. And I'm told parboiled is partly boiled. How is that?
So that's a post-harvest activity. So it's a production activity after you have harvested.
All right.
So mainly done for, obviously, for longer shelf life. And you look at it in a way that because also of market non-guarantee systems where you ostensibly produce directly for market, but because we do not have enough market guarantee, you produce the parboil, you produce the rice, you parboil it, and you're able to store it for a longer
period.
Yes.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Seidu. You are a trade expert, and he thinks that we shouldn't worry at all, with the Indian situation. They are not exporting rice, and because perhaps we do not take rice from India, we have no cause to worry. As a trade expert, do you share the same opinion?
Good evening to your viewers. I think I would like to differ a bit, mostly because, number one, he made an opening statement which I would take from him that when things happen globally speaking, when things happen, you shouldn't take it that it wouldn't come to you. We were here when the Ukraine-Russian war began, and just with a little time, we observed that it had impact on the food staples that we consume. And so in this context, yes, I would say that it's not a cause for alarm, but it should be a cause for preparation and precaution. And what do I mean by these? I mean that, yes, Ghana or India is one of the top 5 major supplying countries of rice into Ghana.
Right.
Even with what happened in India, the ban was done in, was effected in July.
July, yes.
And even there were some ripple effects of that in the US and in Canada. Already, that ban, just the information of the ban, has already contributed to the price increase of rice, in some parts of the world.
Right.
And given the fact that the rice that is produced, whether it's basmati or non-basmati in India, some of it ends up here, it has an implication. Vietnam is our number 1, followed by Thailand, and then India.
Yes.
Then we have China and Pakistan. Now, even in Vietnam and Thailand, given what India has done, it could be that they could either look at the situation, because the context of this is that India has a challenge of a forecasted low production of rice, and already they are feeling it in terms of the inflation, the food inflation in India. So as a precaution on their side, they've decided to put a ban on the export of some varieties of rice. So I'm saying that the implications may not be dire immediately, but it depends on how we prepare and how we decide to go around the situation. Don't forget that this is an agricultural product. You don't just wake up one day or a few weeks and become self-sufficient or have alternatives to rice. You have to either produce it, which takes time and subject to weather, land availability, input costs, and all the things that need to go with it, and or you need to find other countries where you can get it at a relatively lower cost. And so this is the angle I'm coming from, that it should be looked at from a perspective that how can we prepare and what precautions can we take to make sure that we don't have either inflation, we don't have people rushing to buy rice. Already people have started hoarding some rice, at home, buying rice to keep at home, hoping that it will help them to avoid any inflation related to rice.
Yeah, because we also understand that there are some countries that are, have been engaged in panic buying following the announcement by the Indian government. Now, what do you think is the likely impact on us? Are we going to have a direct impact, or you think that it will come around in one form or another?
Well, I do expect that there's going to be some direct impact, given that, number one, India is one of the top 3 sources of our imports of rice. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we import already about almost 60% of the rice we consume. And so if this country is part of the top 3, then certainly it would have a direct impact in terms of this ban. Also, I don't have the statistics. Maybe Mr. Framonsen can give us that. But I don't have the stat in terms of, from what he presented, you see that whilst consumption has increased, local production has not gone in the same direction. So that means that if we don't catch up maybe in the next 6 months or so, we're likely to have some level of shortage in terms of the rice that we consume.
Farmer Morrison actually alluded to the fact that, yes, we export rice. And if we have enough to export, why can't we eat that to curtail imports?
Well, so the examples he cited were examples of, in my view, there were exports of paddy. Some are based on existing trade arrangements or arrangement between companies and their subsidiaries. So a company is based here, they produce paddy rice, which they transport to another country in West Africa or another African country for processing. So that is not something that may directly be seen as, okay, then let's divert it for local consumption. There's already some contractual obligation going on. So right now, you can see that rice is not just being used as rice as a staple, but it has other industrial uses.
Right.
You mentioned, for example, for beer, maybe for other things that it could be used for. So as long as the number of things it can be used for increases, then there's a need for a lot more production domestically or to be able to import from other countries to use for that purpose.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let me come back to you. I know you are an advocate for local production of rice.
Certainly.
And you know that government has also been at the forefront trying to champion the consumption and production of local rice. And in my intro, I did make mention of the fact that the Just Pond Group is leading the charge in this particular regard, where it has signed several MOUs with international partners to increase production of rice in this country using technology, amongst others. So I just want to find out from you what your assessment is, where you sit at the Chamber of Agribusiness in terms of our quest to increase local rice production.
Well, this is a very important thing, and I'll bring your mind to three things. If you look at the last economic intelligence report for Ghana on food security, it states clearly, one, that our country policies are not aligned to our national priorities. That is with regards to food security. Two, it states clearly that there are no political commitment. And let me move the political to bring government. So our governments have not been committed towards their own policies. And three, it says clearly that the industry have so many things to do with non-harmonization of our policies and programs. So you look at it that every sector of government agencies, the Kwango ones, the ministries, everybody is implementing agriculture projects, which are not really aligned and uncoordinated. And the World Bank has stated clearly that in government, where there are non-harmonization and uncoordinated policies, it brings a lot of corruption. It brings a lot of unproductivity. And those are the results. So first, you need to look at regulatory measures. What regulatory measures are actually in place and are being enforced to make sure that domestic production is actually being enhanced and given the right environment or the ecosystem to support, to grow. So you look at it. If government is not, the senior minister, I've heard him several times. We've had a lot of banter, the graphic money programs, and it's like they are looking at import substitution. When a government is focusing on import substitution, first of all, you have to look at what is our national interest.
Right.
Then you can do a proper metrics. But first, take the regulatory measures. What serious regulatory measures have we put in place with regards to our rice sector? For over how many years since I told you we did the rice policy for Ghana? 2008. What measures have we put in place that have mitigated importation, that have strengthened research and development, that have increased adaptation of rice production? Now, the agriculture census 2018, it states clearly that we have a farmer population that uses very rudimentary technologies. If you look at the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, and you know rice requires a lot of water, it says that irrigation penetration rate in the country is less than 13%. In a country where we actually need more water in terms of irrigated lands, we have over 200 sites that even the guider itself has profiled as possible areas for irrigation development. We are not doing enough. And the same agriculture census also states clearly, and you see, rice production is a very, very, very energetic area. You require a lot of energized people to go in there. We have a farmer population that is overage. So that alone is a major
The sector doesn't look attractive to the younger ones.
It doesn't. So you require government to actually sit down to say, look, these are the areas that I want to develop, I want to work on, and begin to take strategies that will actually encourage the private sector. And I have consistently said that the short-term policies that we develop are not incentive enough to actually encourage the private sector to come in. If you develop a 7 years, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, the private sector knows that, yes, when I bring in the money, I'll be able to recoup and be able to sustain due to the policy-friendly environment. But it is not done. And one other thing that supports food production in Ghana is smart guarantee system. You have a system where farmers produces and they are waiting to get buyers. And sometimes we allow buyers to determine to farmers at the farm gate the price at which they should sell their produce.
Right.
And it sometimes saddens me to get calls from most of my members that, look, I have this foreigner here who is buying from me, and these are the issues. I don't think I want to sell, but I'm being pushed to sell.
Right.
So we have a trade regulatory environment that allows foreigners to trade directly with our farmers, which is not done. You can't go to Brazil and buy soya or maize directly from the farmer. No, you deal with the export companies that have been licensed to do so. We have consistently been telling government, look, just put in structures from where we sit and the type of people we engage with. Put in structures that will support private sector investment.
Right.
And I dare to say that, look, Jospon, I've studied their activities. If you look at Thailand, and you see, people think that in the food industry, there are no intelligence and there are no issues. Our leading expert on IT for the chamber, who is our senior technology advisor, Professor Kester, he did a very fantastic presentation to MOFA when they were developing their e-agriculture policy. And he states clearly that one area we should protect is our soil. Now, ask yourself, the number of inputs that we import, what intelligence goes in there to determine that these crops, these inputs are not actually depleting our soil nutrients.
Right.
And don't forget that the money that we change, CD that we change into dollars, affects the economy. All right? If you look at the budget of the amount we spend on importation of several pesticides, insecticides, weedicides, and several other fertilizers that we import into the country. Look, global food system is all about intelligence. I can develop a product that I know that, for instance, Thailand knows Ghana imports or depend on them with regards to rice.
Right.
Now, Thailand can develop a product and bring it to us that will affect our production system to make sure that consistently Ghana's rice consumption is tied to their consumption. Okay, you know, some of the issues I can't just discuss them in public, but we need to be very strategic. Look, food system is the opium of the people. Globally, we use food to penetrate economies, and most people don't know. Find out how much of money we spend daily on pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, how much of money we spend on sausage. All these things were not previously with us. However, we are spending a lot. Okay? So we need to face it. Ideally, if I'm to advise Jospon, I mean, Thailand, we have the best agronomists in Ghana. We have the best. Look, one thing, when we engaged the Thai some years back, we realized that their smallholder farmers do not only do rice. They actually do aquaculture along the line.
Okay.
So they produce the rice, and within their production system, there is also fish.
Yeah.
So they are able to sell at a more competitive rate.
Okay.
Because they are making an economic, second economic benefit out of the aquaculture. So they have a very good water system.
Right.
Neat water. Possibly, we may not have that high water system here in Ghana, but we can work towards it. I believe strongly in Ghana's agriculture competitive advantage, and what we need to do as a country to be more consistent with regards to continuous investment. Look, it takes a farmer more than a year or two to access credit at the bank.
Right.
But it takes an importer a week because he's got a market guarantee.
Yeah.
All we're talking about is the fact that whether youth promotion in agriculture, whether we are advancing policies and strategies to win off the country from importation bill. Currently, we are doing about $12 billion annually in food importation bill. Now, a quarter of that consistently invested in the agriculture sector, into research, into production, into technology, and youth development will give us the leisure for us to be able to sits back and says, yes, the investment was worth it. And we looked at it, and when you asked your question, Ghana imports to the sub-region as a result of the ECOWAS protocol. So we worked somewhere in 2019, 2021 on the ECOWAS food policy, ECOWAS food storage policy. And Ghana is a contributor to the ECOWAS buffer stock. So some time ago, you realize that Ghana took some grains from the ECOWAS, especially maize, which we have to pay back equally in equal amount. So we do not only exist as a country, but we belong to a sub-regional economy, and my brother is an expert in those areas, so he will be able to talk about it. But at the end of the day, we can continue to look at the dynamics, the strength of our city, how we consistently use trade tools, like India has done, to strengthen their economy. What we can also do, because yes, of course, we belong to the World Trade Organization. There are some tools available to us as a sovereign country that we can adopt, that we can say, look, going forward for the next 5 to 7 years, as a long-term strategy of Ghana to be food secured in rice and other derivatives, Ghana is taking steps, and we don't even need to announce it. Because these are, and you see, my brother, these are the problems I have with politicians and government spokespersons here and there, and the policymakers. They are quick to announce to media that we are doing this, when in fact the strategy, the framework does not even exist. Where the funding is coming from to sustain this is not even there. Other countries will begin to do it, begin to yield the objective and the target result before you even get to know that, hey, this country has taken steps and they are full secured in this. They are no longer importing as much as they have to. Look at the number of people on the streets of Ghana. Yesterday, I was coming back from Volta region. You go to Atimpoku, Japan, and all that. You see young, vibrant youth putting food on their head, running, chasing buses to sell. These are people we can channel into productivity. I chair the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Body of TVET Commission. When we develop all these curriculums for the use of the agriculture colleges, the technical universities, and I bleed my heart out, why government is not supporting people of this type to go and have skilled training. And this is what we call economic skills diversification. When you put much premium on developing the skills of your youth, they will not be standing selling unnecessary things. Do you want to tell me that if you are in the traffic and you want to buy orange, you don't know where to get orange from? Or you are in the traffic, you want to buy water, you can't get water? So we need to be strategic. We need to find a way to, discourage such unseen situations we consistently see on the street.
Let me come to Mr. Seidu. Should this particular directive or policy by the Indian government be a wake-up call to developing countries? And what impact do you see it having on continental trade?
So yes, I agree with you on the point that it should create a wake-up call for developing countries. The reason being that, yes, if you take many parts of the world, countries are working towards securing access to inputs, raw materials, and food that they need. For example, if you take the EU, they have put in place a new policy called the Critical Materials Act, which contains ways by which they can have access to lithium, copper, and other kinds of materials that can be used for renewable energy. Because to them, the future of their country depends on access to these raw materials. And so they've created that kind of system. So again, there's a need for countries, developing countries like Ghana and others, to look at ways to secure their access to food. Food sufficiency does not necessarily mean that you produce all that you need, but it means you have access to it all year round whenever you need it. And so it is important for us to begin to think about the strategies to do that. I think the challenges on the production side have been enumerated.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that you cannot go ahead to work on your production, because production is the beginning. I do think that we have capacity to expand production. There are already government initiatives that have gone on, planting for food and jobs, that went on for a while. There's been subsidy for rice. Farmer Morrison has mentioned initiative to support multiplication of seeds and things like that for rice sector. I think those should be pursued aggressively. Number two, I think we should look at increasing irrigated rice production. I've seen irrigated rice production in Esuchari. Some are coming up in the Nasia, Nabugu area, very much supported. So those things should be expanded.
Right.
Those other support services that are needed to drive rice production should also continue. I'm talking about access to finance, that banks and all kinds of financial institutions should begin to look at innovative ways to support the rice production industry, especially those commercial banks that have high interest. He mentioned smart guarantees, the use of guarantees established by GESAL, Ghana Incentive Risk System, which is supporting banks to be able to support agricultural sector. So these are things that for Ghana we should continue to do. I'm just saying that it should be accelerated. We should have a strategy. The rice strategy, which was 2008, of course, that kind of was almost enhanced by the planting for food and jobs. But we need a new strategy to say, where are we going now? ECOWAS launched a rice offensive strategy to make sure that we achieve sufficiency in rice by 2025. We're just two years away. I don't know if there's been any assessment of the journey so far and what it takes. But this is just highlighting the fact that because of the globalization, because of the interconnectedness between us, there's a need for a lot of, he mentioned intelligence. People should be looking at trends and be saying that this is what this means for us. We don't need to be taken by surprise. We don't need to be reacting. We should rather be, proactive and taking the right initiative. Yes, there's a likelihood of a benefit of this rice ban in India for Africa.
Right.
Because he mentioned that Ghana exports rice to other West African countries. And even, he mentioned Korea and co. That is good. But certainly those are not high volume. We're not doing a lot. So there are countries in Africa which have become self-sufficient in rice.
Right.
Madagascar, Malawi, you can add some of the countries like Egypt, Morocco. They're doing about 90% sufficiency in rice, which means that they have the potential to produce the rice and export them.
Right.
So I want to use this opportunity to say that, yes, the door from India is being closed, but since I believe in the Pan-African vision of an integrated and prosperous Africa by 2063, I want to encourage Ghana and other African countries to begin to look at Africa as a source of rice. Rice and food. We import a lot of our wheat from Ukraine and Russia, which has had some challenges. In East Africa, they have sufficiency in wheat.
Right.
We can go there for wheat. We just have to leverage on what has been done. So I'm just advocating that let's move from the talk about the AFCFTA and let's take action. Those business people who are already importing rice from other places from Asia, they should begin to think about it from East Africa, from Malawi, and from Madagascar, and from other countries there where they can get rice for Ghana. And I tell you, I know we have tasty rice, but these countries also have very, very good tasty rice that will be helpful for us.
Now, in terms of sufficiency, do you think that Ghana can ever get there to be rice sufficient? And what are some of the things that you see as our main bane, the challenges that hinders, massive production or commercial production of rice in our country?
I think Ghana can get there. I mean, we have sufficiency in maize. Maize is something that, we hardly import any. We have production that goes on. So we can achieve that. The good thing is that rice is being produced in almost every part of Ghana. I spoke to somebody 2 days ago who said he's in Dunkwaofin, they're doing rice. Rice is being produced in Fosu. Rice is being produced in the Volta region. Rice is being produced in Ashanti region. Rice is being produced in the northern region. So the rice opportunity is huge. And you asked the question about the parboiled rice. One of the advantage of the parboiled rice is that it provides the element that reduces diabetes. I'm not advertising it without FDA though, but it's one of the elements that can actually help diabetic patients with parboiled rice because it reduces the starch content. And the advantage in parboiling is that it increases the humidity, the moisture, in the rice. So when the rice is harvested, especially in the northern part of Ghana where the weather is harsh, when it's harvested, parboiling it restores some moisture, then you go into milling, which then keeps it as a whole grain instead of it becoming powdery. So Ghana can get there. So what are the issues? Number one is still our production is largely small scale, individual farmers doing less than 3 or 5 hectares production. So we can look at expanding that. We need more commercial farming. We need more irrigation, rice under irrigation, so that we can have rice all year. We need, on the production side, the milling side, we need more mills to be able to mill the rice appropriately to the taste of consumers. And then on the other side, we need the consumers also to turn to the local rice, because it's still a challenge to get people to like the local rice. Yes. They complain about stones, they complain about debris, they complain about the appeal, which is something, I have tasted and used to sell some local rice. I'll tell you that those who produce local rice are doing very, very well, and they are aiming to really capture the market. It's just the political economy. It's still cheaper to import and sell, and so comparatively the price is higher. And so that is the challenge on the consumption side.
Well, okay, so we'll go for a break now. When we return, I'll find out from you. He made mention in one of his submissions about the fact that his government took off this exemptions. And I remember we recently had a discussion with Rashad from CropLife, and he hammered on this particular issue and efforts they've made to the ministries of finance and trade and all that to get resolved. And I think are great, yes, and which has not worked out. Whether you think that is also a contributory factor to an ability to, as it were, produce more. This is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we're taking a look at the Indian situation where they've banned the exportation of rice. We're trying to see what lessons we can draw from that and what the impact would be for continental, global, and indeed our trade here, regional trade in Africa. And tonight we are doing the discussions with Mr. Dodisedu, who is Mr. Dodisedu is an after consultant with Frontier Market Advisors, and also in the studios is Mr. Anthony Kofitio Morrison. He prefers to be called Farmer Morrison, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. We're going for a break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please do stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really?
Okay.
Are they come?
Shut up!
Boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill it up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey, go for mommy.
Choose Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Raw 95. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse. Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance. Oh, Ajima, tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. We are going straight to, I've been told that we can announce the phone lines now. The number to dial is 020-5528353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Now, I have this one here. It's coming from Rashad Kadri with Crop Life. He says, good evening to you and your panel. Talking about creating an enabling environment, policy environment to drive rice production. There is the need for government to review the Tax Exemptions Act 2022 Act 1083 to include inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, and other crop protection products to make inputs affordable and accessible to the many rice farmers in the country. My regards to Farmer Morrison and Seydou. Well, okay, so that's from Rashad. He sends his regards. Thank you very much, Rashad, for keeping your dial here on Metro TV. Remember, we'll be taking your messages as well pretty shortly. But the number to dial to contribute to the discussion is right there on your screen, 020-552-8353. You can call in and then contribute to the discussion. Let me come to Farmer Morrison once again and find out from you, what do you think we should be doing as a country? What are some of the things you think that we should be doing as a country? You've mentioned some of them already, to scale up rice production and to be sufficient in rice production. Mr. Seydou has given us a litany of them and what he thinks that we should do to get it right. From the Chamber of Agribusiness.
Things that we need to do. First, we need to look at our land policies, how we can safeguard long-term investment and security of our lands for agriculture purposes. We had started some work 2 years ago at Ministry of Food and Agriculture on the Ghana Agriculture Land Investment Program. We are looking to actually profile all available lands in the country, talk to landowners, especially the royals, the traditional rulers, and landowners and see how they can bring their land in for the purpose of agriculture investment.
Right.
Now, we need to make sure that, because with that land, you can't do anything agriculture. 2, let's look at how...
All right, so 2, hold on, I understand we have a caller. Good evening. Okay, I understand. We've lost him. So please,
Okay.
you are number 2 here.
Yes, 2. We need to look at our policy environment. How our policy is well designed to obviously encourage private sector investment. 3, finance. 4, we need to look at research and development. Now, we go to buy tomatoes from Burkina Faso. Why? Because the seed they use has been tropicalized and is conducive for their soil. Now, luckily for us, we have WACI, CSR, AGRA supporting in that area.
Right.
We also have GIZ now looking at the Ghana rice sector. Okay. How do we then give enough funding to these research institutions? Support them. We're not talking about one time 1 million, 2 million. We're talking about consistent investment into research and development.
Yeah.
You see, without research, you can't do anything. You can't be competitive or have any comparative advantage over your global partners or your global trade partners. So that, for me, is a major factor.
Right.
You see, we can't be using the same seeds across the country. We have we did our soil mapping. So if you go to Soil Research Institute,
where you see which variety of rice will do
in
well
specific areas.
Yeah, okay.
Now, as we speak, we apply the universal seed everywhere. And obviously, you and I are different. Myself and him, we are different. We may not be conducive, our system may not be conducive for every type of food. Yeah. Certainly, the soil ecosystem is also like that. So the soil physicist will tell you that, look, we need to engineer, I'm using the right word, not the way the public understand it, but we need to engineer the right seed for the right ecosystem. We have the unimodal and the bimodal system in Ghana where we do our production.
Right.
Seeds must be deliberately produced using the ecosystem strength to make sure that in terms of the yields, we are getting that. If we are looking at 9 tons per hectare, that must be the target.
Right.
If we are looking at planting the seed during the dry season, and this is the point, we use the current seeds available, both in minor and major season.
Right.
I mean, it's never done anywhere. Because in the minor season, you should be looking at how the seed must be drought resistant. The seeds must be able to develop some, when the seed germinates, the plant must be able to develop some moisture to be able to irrigate or water itself.
Right.
You know, we need to develop specific seeds for specific climate zones in the country. We know we have the savanna, we have the northern region, we have the southern region. We need to be specific. And you see, deliberate attempts by government over the years have not really been enforced.
Right.
For instance, I have consistently said that for us to be competitive, we need to look at the cost of production. And I'm veering towards the market now.
Right.
The consumers like you and I will look at the cost of 5 kg of rice. You first of all look for the price before you get to know whether they are local rice or foreign rice.
Yeah.
We need to look at that. If we are competitive in our rice production, then we can then be driving consumer preferences and branding such that the local content creation in our food is well protected. So we can then say that, okay, how do you call it? Free SHS program strictly is local rice. We can say that no local rice, no foreign rice in certain public institutions.
Right.
Or all public institutions henceforth must eat local rice.
Right, yeah.
For instance, you go to government hotels, you go to government hospitals, you go to government places of entertainment. And what we consume are all foreign rice.
Right.
This, once they are government institutions, they must consume or provide local rice. Another issue we need to look at is that we have not actually provided any strong regulatory measures in the food industry in Ghana.
Right.
You have MOFA that is, if you look at the food governance structure in Ghana, you look at MOFA or the agriculture governance.
Yes.
You look at MOFA, then you come to the regional agriculture regional coordinating department. Then you come to the district agriculture department. Those departments under Ministry of Local Government. We need to now engage properly to develop what I refer to as a national food or agriculture regulator. A regulator that looks, first of all, at when you want to import. For instance, Egypt. Egypt has something they call the Egypt Food Export and Import Council. Before you import anything, they look at it and they find out what you want to import, whether byproduct or raw material. Can it be found in Egypt?
Yeah.
What quantity do you require on annual basis? That council have the research, the technology, and the financial institutions. So they're able to link you. And even if they give you a license, the license is made they make sure that the license actually live up to its expectation, and you are given quota and what you have to do with regards to now taking your raw materials from local producers.
Okay, so you'll continue from there, but let's welcome Francis, who is calling us from Ho, onto the show. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, can you speak up a bit, please?
I just want to encourage the panelists. What you are saying is true.
Right.
We have to encourage our local production of rice. The foreign rice is too expensive. And when you compare it to the local, it's quite affordable. So I just want to congratulate you for hosting the gentleman. He's in fact my classmate at Bishop Herman.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not wishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Francis. We are grateful to you for your call. You can also call. The number to dial is 020-552-8353. You can call and then contribute to the discussion. Yes.
So as I was saying, we are creating several government quangos. And in fact, government is complaining about there are not enough funds to run some of these government authorities, agencies, and what have you. Why don't we make sure that we just create one national regulator? Like, for instance, in the petroleum industry, they have the National Petroleum Authority. In the communication industry, they have the National Communication Authority. So why can't we have an authority for agriculture as a regulator? I mean, this is, we say the agriculture sector in Ghana is the mainstay of the economy. And the mainstay of the economy does not have a regulator to regulate what comes in. I know we have peripheral agencies like EPA, PPRSD. We can bring their functions into the activities of a regulator and make sure that we as a country are not deficient or we are not taking for right. You see, I've consistently been saying that the food industry is what they can use, or our trade partners can use to permeate our economy. It's an economic tool for the destabilization of your otherwise seemingly robust economy. They identify the weaknesses and they bring in products. For instance, when the Fall Army Wen came.
When the Fall Army Wen came.
Exactly.
Yes, please hold on. Let's welcome Maxwell, who's calling us from Accra, and then we continue from there. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes.
Yes, and good evening to your listeners.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for calling in.
I'm so much interested in the discussions. It's a nice discussion going on. What I want to say was I heard one of your panelists talk about lack of regulation. And what I want to say is broadly that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is actually one of the public institutions in Ghana that has a lot of partners and collaborative entities, including NGOs. A lot of partners are really available to the disposal of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. But what they have failed to do is to bring all these NGOs and partners under one umbrella to create a synergy for them to thrive, where they can respond actively to the policies. For instance, if you take the Plenty for Food and Jobs and Revenue for Food and Jobs, the part that these development partners play is not consistent to what the policy document is saying. Because I have been working with this agri development partners, including the international ones here in Ghana. So that is the challenge that I see in terms of what the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is trying to do and what these partners are trying to do. There's not that synergy. So there's also the need for the ministry to sit down with all these partners, all these development partners, including the international ones, and streamline the activities of these organizations to what the ministry is trying to do to ensure food security, which is the broad goal for all of us as Ghanaians. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, who is calling us from Accra. Thank you very much. We're grateful to you. Remember, you can also call the number to line 020-552-8353. Yes, so you were on the fall army worm? Yes.
Yes. So, for instance, when we had the issue of the fall army worms, we were importing from all over the world a lot of weedicides and insecticides and pesticides and what have you. Okay? But are we able to channel that money into the research institutions?
Right.
Can that money stay here? Are we able to say that for the next 10 years as a country, we want to develop 10 seed breeding companies that can make sure that the amount of money we use to import these seeds actually stays here in the country? Can we also look at the role of NDPC,
right?
The National Development Planning Commission. Yeah. I'll give you one example. You go to Rwanda. Rwanda have the Development Partners Funding and Donor Coordinating Council. All donor money, whatever it is coming from, for whichever sector of the economy, first of all, come there. It comes there, they look at the national priorities of the country.
Right.
They look at the agencies that are supposed to lead and the complementary agencies.
And then they allocate those
exactly.
funds to them.
And they make sure, and they actually put in a system, a repository that feed in reports. And you look at data consistently indicating how this project is doing. In Ghana, everybody is implementing projects. There is no report anywhere on project that you can see on any database informing you of the otherwise failure or the success of this project. So I want to add that we need NDPC to strengthen their coordinating activities. We also need, for the last one, develop the Ghana Agricultural Information Management System.
Right.
Look, we have been talking about data here, how we need data. Data mining is a big area where a lot of work is being done. For instance, if you see the work of you spoke about the United States Department for Agriculture. If you look at what this organization does, they have a project or on their website, what they call Global Agriculture Information Network. Every data globally, you can find it there.
Over there, okay. All right, so we're taking our last caller, and then I'll come to Mr. Seidu and then take your remarks because we have barely 5 minutes to go. So let's welcome Haruna, who's calling us from Adenta. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please shoot.
Thank you very much for your program. It's very educative and enlightening. The gentleman seated there, I like his approach to the issue is very good.
Right.
And I really commend him very much. But the problem right now has to do with the government. Not this government, not the past government, our leadership.
Right.
Do they have the interest? Look at the gentleman speaking right now and the way he's elaborating the point after the other.
Yeah.
Is it going down the drain or is going into their heads? So will they listen and then implement some of, not all, some of the policies or maybe the suggestions he's trying to put in place? Will our government and our leadership stop hoarding monies in their bedrooms and bring out those monies to develop seed companies? He's talking about 10 seedling companies. We don't even need 10, excuse me to say, at least one single seedling company. We buy tomatoes. One day I went to Medina Market to buy tomatoes. Unfortunately for me, one lady, when I was asking about what tomatoes in here, say, she was telling me, oh, where they're from Morocco, and where anybody. I was shocked to the bone. I was like, wow, Ghana. So this is where we have gotten to. We import tomatoes from Morocco. And Cote d'Ivoire and Cotombre. So our leaders, will they stop hiding monies, hoarding monies, dollars, into their bedrooms and bring them
make your
out.
point. Make your point. Let's not go there. Just make your point. Your point is well made, actually. But just Claire, let's go. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Haruna was trying to digress a bit, but I think we heard him loud and clear. Let me come to, I think there are a few messages here, but let me come to Mr. Studio and find out from you. What, as a country, clear policies you think that we can be rolling out to ensure that we meet our quest to limit importation of rice?
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, a clarification I want to make is that I'm a trade person. I'm not in trade. We have people we call mercantilists who believe in exporting more than importing.
Right.
I'm not a mercantilist. I
Right.
believe in free trade, the ability of goods.
Does it come from mercantile or something?
Yes.
Mercantilist, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So the ability of goods we produce to move across, so long as there is that mutual benefit on the other side.
Right.
So I won't subscribe to Farmer Morrison's idea that there should be a council that ensures that before you import, they check this or check that and give you the license.
Yes.
That those will be adding already to some level of existing non-tariff barriers that we already have, and I will not subscribe to that. Number two, there is no problem if on our market we have tomatoes from Morocco or we have tomatoes from Burkina. There's no problem at all.
Right.
What is happening is that there are people in Ghana who like tomatoes from these places.
Yeah.
It is because there is a demand for these things. That is why they exist. So people eat apples.
Right.
In Ghana, we don't grow apples here.
Grapes.
But it's because we like grapes and apples.
Yeah.
In the same way, people eat mangoes in Netherlands.
Yeah.
They don't produce mangoes in Netherlands. But those mangoes are coming from Somenia, which are, harvested, harvested, and exported from here.
Absolutely.
So those countries that are already beginning to put in what we call protectionist measures are already creating an incentive for others to hold back what they produce.
Absolutely.
So I'm not in any way suggesting that any country should close their borders or close their countries to any products. The goods should be able to move where they are needed.
Right.
And there should be trade arrangements to secure that. So I think that going forward, Ghana should be looking at how to produce. If we can produce, then there's no problem to worry about where the imports are coming from. Absolutely. And if you can produce competitively, yes, when you are a policymaker, you don't have the choice that Farmer Morrison has. Farmer Morrison represents farmers, and so his interest is only for farmers.
Absolutely.
But in a policy environment, you have to think about everybody. Everybody has to benefit. There are those who import the inputs, who use the inputs, and those who import the rice seeds and all of that. They all must benefit. So policy measures must take this into consideration.
Right.
So I think that we can get there if we can begin to work towards it. We can get to the position where we can produce enough rice to consume and possibly also export,
Right.
which will also be to our advantage. If we can export rice to our neighbors like he showed and he's done, Togo, Burkina. In fact, there's already some level of informal trade of these products going on, which of course there are no records, statistics to show.
Right.
So I want to encourage that we look at creating an enabling environment for domestic production as well as regional trade and continental trade in rice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Dodisedu. This one says, this is from Ohima in Tema, one of our regular viewers. She says, good evening, Iron Port. Great and insightful discussion. I'm really enjoying it. Kudos to you and your panelists, and special greetings to Reverend Dodisedu. All right, okay. So this one says, hello, good evening, Mr. Host. I really support Mr. Morrison. He understands the situation. He understands our situation in Ghana very well. All what he's saying is very true. I'm a farmer, Alpha Prosper from Adidome. Thank you very much to you too. We have so many other messages here. You can catch the abridged version on GTV on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and you have the full complement of the messages that you have sent. That's why we'd like to say a big thank you to you for sticking with us, for staying tuned and for watching Iron Port tonight. I'll say a very big thanks to Mr. Dodisedu, after consultant with Frontier Markets Advisors, and also to Mr. Anthony Kofitio Morrison, CEO, Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. He prefers to be called Farmer Morrison. We'd like to say a big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Regional Authority, GWEL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the show is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. We entreat you to watch the abridged version on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Ghana Television. And also remember to keep watching the rest of our programs here. We wish you a very, very super week ahead. And we say thank you very much for watching. And God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite.